Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. Thank you so much for joining me. I wonder how we're doing with lighting today. I'm a moving target these days. I'm traveling across America on my speaking tour, and everything's always in flux. So bear with me as I get things started here. I'm really excited about today's show, but before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about how this show is really designed to help you shift your life into a higher level of being. This is a show that's all about consciousness in your health, your wealth, your relationships, your business, and of course, your self-expression. And so as we go through this process of unpacking how critical consciousness is in the world, in your life, and for you to be able to manifest and create your reality, you're going to be able to use these tools to make the changes that you want to make. So with that said, no further ado, my guest today is Lillian Victoria. She is a fantastic coach in the realm of getting what you want in your career and living an authentic life. Moving past the resume life is today's topic. And thank you so much for joining me. It's wonderful to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I think we have something in common, and that's Bob Proctor. I know you studied under him and are certified as a coach through his organization. I actually worked with Bob back in the day when he was just getting things going, getting things off the ground. He was facilitating one of the main books of the spiritual movement from the 1900s, Wallace D. Wattles' book, The Science of Getting Rich, The Science of Getting Rich. I'm in the process of reading The Science of Life, or The Game of Life by Florence Scovel Shinn. And I keep confusing the two because I think by the way the books read, it wouldn't surprise me if they were buddies. So I'm sure you're probably familiar with her work, are you?
Yeah, I am. I read the whole book. It covers really good. Yeah, it's like the same essence. It covers the same elements.
It really is. And I've been going back through the book again. I think the first time I read it was probably the early 90s when I launched my speaking career. And I was really looking to make some pivotal changes, which is, really what today's show is all about, is being able to make the changes that you want to make in your life and to actually live the career life that you want to live. So tell me a little bit about that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just pause my camera so I can turn on some extra lighting here and see if I can brighten things up a bit.
Yeah. So I think, I'll talk about the resume life, right? And I had the pleasure to have an amazing conversation with Deborah before this podcast interview. And maybe some of you guys could relate, or maybe you're living it where you passed through it. So for my whole life, I called it my resume life because I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do. Go to a good school, get good grades, get a good job, get married at the right time, buy a house, have a baby, all that, rising through the ranks, that what I thought that I should do. And notice you said, I thought, right? So because I was like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. And, one thing, Deborah, you just said that's so powerful at the beginning is having this happy life and this coming from the conscious. I wasn't really coming from my soul. That was the issue. I was coming from what everyone told of me to do. And that became my belief system. And the awakening for me was I realized that I didn't even know who I was at the time. I was in a situation where in theory, I should have been very happy because everything that was given to me on the checkbox, I checked. Right. And even because I was told as I was growing up that you want to get married by 30, you want to have a kid early 30s. So that was a belief that was just kind of all over my head because of the family and the environment. I even checked that box.
Oh, wow.
I was not happy inside. I was not
Yeah,
very
those programs, man, they can run so deep and they can steer our lives in the opposite direction from where we really should be in terms of our gifts and our talents. And I was actually writing an article today. It was sort of the preamble to the show, actually, on LinkedIn. And I was thinking about how the corporate ladder structure is this linear process. You have to do this before you can do that, before you can do that, before you can do that. And what it kind of does is it really sort of squelches the creativity out of you as a human, out of your life. So good on you for recognizing that and making the transition. I mean, it's one thing to decide at some level that you want a different kind of life, but it's a whole other conversation to actually go after it. What was the pivot point for you in that?
Oh my gosh. So the pivot point for me was when I lost everything. But looking back, I am very grateful. I am so grateful because what I realized was I didn't even have a foundation in my own life. I was building on a house I was building a house on the land that had no strong foundational structure.
Like a castle on sand.
100 that's the best word. That I'm gonna steal that. That is so well described.
Not
Yeah.
mine.
That's exactly how it is. And of course it was going to collapse. Everything looked so good on the outside and inside it was rotten. But when I did that, I was able to really rebuild. Okay, so this is who I am. It's not just my name. It's not just like where I live and not what I do, right? There's so many people, and I'm sure you come across so many people. Their job is their identity. That was me.
For sure. But so I understand the theory behind arriving at a point of awareness where you realize that you've got this castle on sand. But in real life, like as a real aha moment, what was the tipping point?
Oh, the tipping point was, I still remember there was this point where I was running a company. I was coming home to a nice house. I have my beautiful son, and I'm like, is this it? Like, is this what I built my whole life to be? Because you just said the linear. That started in college and school.
Sure. But isn't that what college is designed for? I mean,
100%.
College is designed to have you think. College is designed for people to graduate and get a job. It's not designed for entrepreneurism or, a creative endeavor that turns into a thriving business that makes you wealthy. It's not designed for that.
No. Yeah, and then that's the thing. But when you don't have the awareness and when you don't know,
well, and when you have everything pushing you toward acceptance and the fulfillment of this linear kind of life, and I think it's worth saying that if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with that, right? We're not making anyone who desires that wrong. We're basically just encouraging people to really consider what else is possible.
Yeah.
And what else they could create for themselves.
And that's what the key. What else can you create for yourself? Right? I wasn't thinking about creating for myself. I was just thinking about living a life to be accepted. I was thinking about living a life on how to make my husband happy and forgetting who I am. Right? And now I know that to be in a healthy relationship, I got to be happy. You can't find happiness in someone. You can't be giving up your goals or that person. It should be, we all have our goals and we work together on that. That's fulfillment. But I didn't know any of that because I didn't have the awareness, because I was taught to be selfless and not self-love.
Wow.
Right? That was a shift. It was that big shift because I realized one of the reasons why I felt so empty And eventually it crumbled to every area on the outside because I didn't fill up my own desire and I wasn't creative. I didn't give myself that attention. I didn't give my soul, I didn't listen to my inner voice. I talked against it.
Yeah, that's a really common societal norm or theme, if you will. And it makes me think of this. When I was in downtown Los Angeles, there's a building where the entire side of the wall has this painted meme on it. And it's a picture of a woman that is classic 1950s look, right? And then it says something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing, that old fashioned notion that you should put others' happiness before your own. And I pondered that and I was like, wow, I was thinking about growing up with parents that sort of came of age during the 50s. And that was a huge theme in our household. I mean, it's all we knew. There was no real access to other thinking systems in order to challenge that belief system and to really get us to think for ourselves that maybe there's another way. And then I was attending, I think it was like a Christmas church event, and in Southern California, in Orange County, actually. And they have these big screens. It's kind of a mega church. They have these big screens, and we're sitting outside, and the preacher was giving the sermon, and then there was these catchphrases on the screens. And it even said, God wants me to put others' needs before myself. And I was like, wow, I think this is what's fundamentally wrong with people's lives. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about others or consider others' needs. That's not what I'm saying. So for all the watchers that are like, going to get upset at me, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is, and to your point, if you don't understand your relationship with yourself, and I talk about this on pretty much every show, if you don't have some sense of awareness around what self-love looks like and feels like, then how can you possibly give to someone else?
So good. Yeah. And that's a change in my life, that shift, was I started to pay attention to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it had nothing really to do with parenting, being a mom, being a wife, having a son. I sense that this was a pattern in you from childhood that just no matter what you did in your life, whether you were being a mom or a wife or an executive in a company, you were coming from this paradigm, this belief system that you didn't count.
100%. Because again, this goes back to not having the awareness. If that's all you know, that's all you know, and that's all I knew. Right. But the good news is you can make the paradigm shift. You can make this shift. You can make the transition. You can look at, okay, so who am I? What do I want? And you can start loving yourself, because when I start to do that, everyone around me changed. Even the little things. If you have talked to the Lillian 3 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't even look at you. I'll be sitting in the very back of the room, speaking very timidly, that quiet person. I hardly put makeup on myself. Right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm so busy. I'm too busy. I got to take care of everything else but me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, wow. I mean, the awakening you've had is worth its weight in gold, really, because now there's no limitations. Do you think that, now I know you had this awakening pre-COVID, but, and I have a question for you, but first I want to make a point. As we each wake up to our divinity, to our power, to our divine purpose, to our own path in this life, we are able to be of greater service to everyone, whether they're people that are the people we love in our immediate environment, or whether it's, people we pass on the street. Maybe we never interact with them, but energetically it has an impact. And so your waking up has an impact on everyone. I mean, you are part of the fabric of the universe, and when you make a shift, the universe shifts. But and so the question I have for you is, what do you think being in lockdown for an extended period of time on a global level, what do you think that impact has been to increase the awakening you've experienced?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. So I'll tell you my whole transition and hopefully I answer your question, because when you say this, I'm just like, I have so many butterflies. So I'm so grateful that I had this awakening, like literally right before the COVID shutdown, right? I used to work in entertainment and I just didn't want to be in it anymore. I didn't know what I want to do. And when I started to, like you said, love myself, on myself, everything around me started to change, because I started to look at the world in a different lens. I started to really step into, like you said, the free, the unlimited. And it was very clear there are some people that's just not in alignment with my life, that it's okay to let go and welcome the abundance. And when COVID hit, right, I had just started as a consultant, and it's insane because, first of all, I'm doing something that I absolutely love. I always wanted to do it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I did it, and it was COVID. But this is where you said earlier, the creative energy. When you just love it and you know it from your bones and it makes you happy, you're going to find a way. You're going to find a way to make it happen. And I started to, work with clients, onboard clients using the internet, something I've never done. Built it. Now I've served over 100 people, like hundreds of people, from companies to entrepreneurs to executive, worldwide. And the reason and I'm so grateful, because I'm grateful for COVID of that. I think if COVID didn't happen, I wouldn't be forced to think creatively,
Right.
but I have this obsession and ambition to do it, so this is where the failing forward is a very beautiful thing.
So do you think other people are experiencing this as well?
I think it's a case by case. I think it depends on everyone's paradigm, their belief. I certainly know people, COVID crushed them and they're staying down and they're still pessimistic. I certainly knew people that saw the opportunity in COVID and they just keep rising. But those are the people that really activate the creativity in themselves. And like you said earlier, more of the entrepreneurial system, they're not going by just like a strict system, but they're very fluid.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the belief system.
Right? Yeah, COVID was actually, 2020 was the best year my business has had in a long time. And we've had some amazing runs, where it's been year after year after year after year. And then COVID hit and it was just like, boom, it was just an explosion. And so I'm seeing that too. I'm seeing that there's a ripple effect. People are picking up on it. Everybody's at a different stage of awareness or consciousness in their being.
Yeah.
And so some are getting it quicker than others, some more expanded than others. I even think the ones that appear to not be getting it at all have some sort of twinkling happening in the back of their mind, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And I certainly feel like COVID was you can look at it as a bad thing or a good thing, but I really believe it's a good thing, because it woke up so many people that have been asleep for so long. And even now.
Yeah, it's continuing. I think we, there was, do you remember Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point?
Yeah.
And, he postulated that somewhere around the 10,000th hour is where we really hit that tipping point and things blow open. And I think used the Beatles as an example, where they had been playing all these roadside pubs. And then, when they hit their 10,000th hour, it was just like, boom, they became known. I feel the same about this. It's there's more and more people every day that are starting to really look at their lives and ask some questions about, is this really it for me? Is this really it for me? Is there something greater for me? And I've been asking myself that all the time, every year for my entire life. And I'll continue to ask that question as time passes, because it's the best way to be really honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely what you just said, and what you just said when you said the 10,000 hour came to me, persistence, right? Persistence is the key.
Yes.
Talks about that in Think and Grow Rich. That's one of the major keys to success. And I find to be able to persist, you've got to love what you do. Build that legacy of your own.
Right. Yeah.
Ask yourself powerful questions. Like, one question I ask myself is, if today's my last day, am I doing what I'm doing to be remembered as? Is this the legacy? If not, what can I do today? And just take that one
That's
step.
good. That's
Right.
really good, because it's easy to get caught up especially when you're switching from, say, what would be considered a reliable job to entrepreneurism. It's funny, the attitude around that. I'm currently on a nationwide speaking tour, and I'm in Tennessee, and I've been on the road now since the end of May, and it's just, I love it. I couldn't ask for it to be more rewarding and just fascinating, because of all the cool people I get to meet and the amazing geography I get to see. Oh my God, it's like mind blowing. The lakes, the rivers, the green, the mountains, it's the bugs, huge bugs. But it was interesting, because before I left, I almost made a shift and considered staying in SoCal and just figuring out another way to do this. And that was really born of a little, back of the mind fear of, if you leave, blah, 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 which is not even accurate. But nonetheless, so I went and looked at some places, and this one lady, she was funny. She said, well, do you work for a company? And I said, well, I'll do you one better. I own one. And she's like, oh, I'm looking for someone that has job security. I'm like, honey, nobody has job security. That is like such a fallacy. You're only as secure as your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose there's some organizations that, people are tenured in, but I think even those are few and far between. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. The job security, even you see the government job security, it's not secure.
Nothing.
The best person you can bank on is yourself.
Yeah.
Right. That's very true. That's why I like listening to yourself, loving yourself, knowing your relationship with yourself, making sure that you're full. That's when the confidence level go up. That's when the self-image goes up. That's when, your field of doing something that you love and you persist. Now you become self-made.
Yes. Right? Yeah. And I think the brain stimulation is greater, because it's through the adversity, that we really grow. I remember I had this grade school teacher that said, a kite flies higher from the resistance of the wind. So more resistance, and the higher the kite flies. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So here I am, years later, I've had a lot of resistance. And it's been good because it's made me rethink things and not just accept, I'm sure you've had this experience where you feel like you're defeated.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like it's not working. It's taking too long. We get so caught up in the time thing. Well, how long is it going to take? When's it going to, like a kid, like, are we there yet?
Yeah. And that's why I really feel like in this time of age, it's really important for people to ask yourself, do I love my life? Like, is this what I love? Because when you're coming from that place of whatever that is that you love, and you're creating that's energy right there. That gets your heart pumping.
Yeah.
That gets you jumped out of bed. That gets you go meet amazing people, pushes you through the limit because now you're going to somewhere that you love. I mean, I've been there where I snooze 20 times, going to the office, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here.
Right.
That's not life. That is not.
And it's a real genuine waste of your talent.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a gift, multiple gifts. Everyone has talents that desire self-expression. It's why I made one of the topics for this show to be in self-expression. It's what's greater in your life than learning to express yourself?
Yeah.
And so if you don't, then what are the repercussions of that? And maybe that really needs to have some attention. So let's just run a scenario. What if you wouldn't have come to your senses and realized that you have these gifts and talents? Just like run the scenario for me. What do you think your life would look like at this point?
I mean, when the biggest thing I have to overcome is me, right? Like, even with that awareness and that desire that was like suppressed in me, I was blocking it. I was creating that resistance. I was coming from fear and I wasn't coming from faith. So, but this did really happen. I knew, I wasn't in the right environment, so much so that my body was breaking out. Like, my neck was like a thermostat. It was always breaking out in hives. In summer, I would wear turtlenecks. At the time, I just thought, I'm so stressed out. And I thought that was normal because I thought you just have to work really hard to get paid, right? That was not the right mindset. But, that was me resisting all of that noise that was inside me saying, hey, you're at the wrong place. You're not supposed to be here. So,
but just like, I want you to kind of look back at your life from the point of view that you didn't make the shift. I think this is really important for our audience, our viewers.
Yeah. So if I didn't make the shift,
would that
I'd probably be in that same situation. I would be unhappy. I probably look like I aged. I would probably continue to have those symptoms. I used to have migraines. I don't have any of those anymore. And then that becomes my normal pattern.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's basically that's exactly what happened. And
Are you still married?
I'm in a new relationship. No, we
are. Okay, so your marriage came to a close.
Yeah.
Now, do you think if you just stayed in your job and inside that paradigm, you would have stayed in that relationship?
Yeah, I do. But I think it would not work out.
Yeah.
It was just not. It was.
And that would have been hard on your son.
Yeah, it wasn't in harmony.
Yeah.
And when you're not in harmony, nothing. When you're not in harmony and you're not in alignment, you're gonna feel it, and that's when the happiness is not there. And ultimately, you think about it from a kid's point of view, right? They want to be with happy people. Doesn't matter who you are when they're that young. And now my son's 28 years old, he still wants to be with people that are happy.
Sure.
And ultimately
Smart
that's
kid.
yeah. And ultimately that's the best thing that we could do for our family, because one of the mantras that I have that keeps me going is, just think about me at the place of achieving all my highest goals. How would my family and friends benefit from that? Think about that.
Yes, yes. And think of how, okay, so then the flip side of the coin is think about how the world is benefiting from you having stepped into your power.
Yeah.
Right? All the clients you've helped.
The clients, but even when you're walking out on the street, you're just happy. Going to Target, even when I talk to, it's like the little things I've noticed has changed. The first thing is I put makeup on, even if it's a little bit at home, because it's a respect for myself. When I go out, when I buy coffee, I'm literally genuinely happy, and leaving people with that increase and telling them that you can live a good life too, versus before it's like, give me my coffee now, right? Huge different tones, but everything come from inside, right? All of that.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, that's powerful. Just when you said that, we hit 333. 333. Being powerful from the inside. That's amazing.
Love it.
Tell us, now that you've made this change and you're doing your own thing and you're coaching, what are some of the benefits from going through this journey of opening yourself up?
Freedom. Like, it's freedom, it's health, it's mental health, it's physical health and mental health. Like, the question you asked me earlier, if I had said that and that, what would happen? Honestly, the biggest thing that was very obvious was the physical health.
Right.
Everything comes from here. But when I didn't know, there was a lot of negative bullshit that was happening in here. But I don't know how to diagnose it because I didn't know what was happening. So my physical health, I was losing a lot of weight. I wasn't eating, my skin was so terrible, it was breaking out. I was always at the hospital. And I remember this moment. I went to get my annual checkup. The doctor said, "Oh, you're healthy." And I go, "Come again? Like, are you sure?" Because I feel so stressed out. But when you're loving what you do, everything, like I just recently caught COVID, but before that, I was so happy. I was healthy. I never worried. And I'm just like seriously enjoying life because every single day I'm building something. And
interesting because you say that's a whole other conversation on being considered healthy when you're not happy. I feel like the allopathic medical model of medicine is really missing the boat on that. It's I think there needs to be a benchmark to catch disease before it hits the body, when it's just, and I don't mean just to minimize, but when it's just a disharmony in the spirit or the mind or the emotions, before it actually shows up, before it actually has to show up in the physical body as some sort of ailment or disease to get our attention.
Oh, 100%. And adding to what you said, I think even back then, intuitively, I felt everything you said because I made them do a blood test to make sure I don't have cancer or cancer. Right. Everything you just said, I just didn't know. It was this intuitive feeling.
Yes. And health is that. We have within us, it built into our nervous system, we have a divine, innate blueprint for perfect health. And it takes a lot of work to get sideways of that. Mm-hmm. It really does. I mean, we have to really beat ourselves up and deny ourselves attention and self-love. And we have to really do a number on ourselves with our self-talk to get sideways of that. But we seem to have a population, a global population, that so easily is sideways of their innate blueprint that is divine for perfect health. Like, what is up with that?
I know. This stuff that we're talking about, school has still not teach it. My kids are in summer, right? My son is first grade. He's going on second. And the last day of school, I walked him in class and we had a very cute talk. He was like, Mommy, so what's after elementary, middle school? What's after middle school, university? I'm sorry, high school. And then what's after high school, university? And I goes, what after university? And he goes, oh, I go get a job. And I go, you don't have to get a job. I'm not saying that you don't, you have to or don't have to. You can make a decision on that. But there are many ways to be creative and do what you love, right?
Yes. I was at an event for girls. It was girls in STEM, I think. It was a girls in STEM event. And I love to support girls, women in my work, and just, be there to just cheer them on every opportunity I get. And so I went to this luncheon, and there was a speaker that was the wife of the mayor. And the whole speech was designed around job, 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 job. And I couldn't resist. I had to put up my hand and go, what about starting your own business? What about being a consultant and working on projects you really love instead of squeezing yourself into this corporate structure that isn't designed for creativity and thriving. And it was like pretty quiet in the room, but I had to ask the question. I have to ask those questions because we have to change the narrative in order for there to be a different point of view or perspective on what's possible. And as long as we keep espousing the same old narrative, we're going to have the next generation make comments like your son did.
100%. And I think those conversations are happening because of COVID, right? Even right now, a lot of companies are going through mass layoffs because the economy is changing. That's all over the news, and we don't have to engage in that. And that's exactly what you said. The best security you could have is yourself, your mindset. Bank on yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Recognize the talent. Recognize the service that you can render. Recognize that you're worthy. Be your best friend to say, hey, I can do this. Instead of talking yourself down, because I used to be that person. I was the hardest on myself.
Oh, me too. I could write books on how to be hard on yourself.
Yeah. Until that narrative changed. And that's when everything started to happen. And I have when this is where, when you change, everyone around you would change. My son, he's with his dad right now. He used my phone to record something, and he'll see me do this. Like every time I'm doing something that's pushing the limits, I'm like, Lillian, you got this. Well, I'll talk myself. So I saw him record on his little video. He's doing he's recording himself sing. He's like, Caleb, you got this. And that was like my proudest mom moment.
Yeah.
Because you are, right, as parents, your kids are going to mimic off from you. Not what you tell them, but the person that you are. And how you're treating people and how you're talking to people. And the people that are in alignment, they start coming to you. So it's not forced.
And yes, it just is, there's a natural flow to it, because that is a representation of how you treat yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
How you treat yourself.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say and that's the best boundary. So even before as an executive, I had a problem. I'm sorry. I just always say I'm sorry for no reason. And I remember I read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and she talked about that's one of the problems with women. And I was like, oh my gosh, I do that. I'm saying I'm sorry for just because I'm there. Why is that, right? And I would try to stop saying it. And the more I tried, the more I would say it. I was like, why? Looking back now, it's because I was giving it so much energy. But when I started to take the power back to myself to say, hey, I am worthy. My opinion matters. I'm here for a reason. I'm actually smart. I bring value. That's when I'm sorry just naturally went away. It's like, I don't even say it. I mean, I will say if I accidentally really hurt someone that deserves apology, yes, we say that, right? But I won't say it just for the sake of saying it.
You
That
sound
was
Canadian, because that's what Canadians do. Canadians apologize for everything. A Canadian will be in a bar and somebody will bump into them and they'll turn around and go, I'm sorry. It's just like, because it's a cultural thing. And that's what you're talking about. These cultural codes, mindset paradigms, belief systems, they are handed down generation after generation. And at some point, somebody, like obviously you and I, are the game changers. We're saying, no, I'm not being that. I'm being me. And maybe I don't know all what that looks like yet. And I need to build that out and let that take shape and form. But I'll figure it out instead of fitting into what someone else says you should fit into. And I think that's really powerful kind of end note. So thank you for being here. Tell me, or tell the viewers, how can they find you? And do you have something, a free offer or something you wanted to give them?
I do. So, we talked about the mind, and if there's something that you really want to understand, the blueprint of it, I do have a freebie. Deborah has a link, and it really breaks down and teaches you how the mind works and science. So, Debbie, you study Bob, so we have the stick figure in there. It just makes it very simple for you to understand. So you understand that flow, right? And if you want to keep in touch with me, my website is www.awesomeness.lifestyle.com. And thank you so much, Deborah, for making the time for me to come on during your busy schedule. I'm so delighted.
Yeah, me too. And I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and then we get you scheduled, and then something comes up. So thank you for being willing to jump on here today. I'm glad we made it. It's been very powerful to get together here.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll put Lillian's link and all of her stuff in the show notes, you guys. So thank you for being a part of the Deborah Peters Show. And remember, stay aligned, stay awake, and stay alert. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you for being here.